Welcome back to the things we know. We're so glad you're here with us. Always glad to be with Lisa on my Thursday recordings. And today we have a great a guest. We're diving into a topic that we all carry, often with way more stress and silence than support, because we don't talk about it enough, and that's money. Not just how to earn more or spend less, but how we relate to money, what we believe about it, how safe we feel with it, and what we've internalized over years or even generations about whether or not we're allowed to want it, receive it, or trust it.
Yeah. We're also going to talk about some of the deeper reasons that money conversations can feel so charged. For a lot of women, the stress around money isn't just practical, it's emotional, it's energetic, it's even somatic. It lives in our nervous system. I so relate to that. It lives in our early stories. Again, so relate to that. And sometimes we're trying to solve for cash flow when what we really need to look at is safety, capacity, and trust.
So many women we talk to right now are doing everything right on the surface, working hard, budgeting, being responsible. It's kind of like the duck analogy, but under the surface, they're feeling really scattered and stuck when it comes to money. It's like they're chasing stability that never really lands. And so today's guest is someone who helps women shift that pattern. And a lot of like these words are inspired by her, really, not by grinding harder, but by looking inward, healing old stories, and building a different kind of relationship with money.
We are so excited to welcome back JD Rose. She is a financial well-being coach who helps smart, sensitive women heal their relationship with money and self-worth. She's the creator of the Embodied Wealth Matrix. She blends strategy, emotion, empowerment, and energetic practices to help women feel safe and resourced, not just financially, but internally.
JD is also a dear friend and someone we've both learned so much from over the years. JD's work is insightful, compassionate, and transformative. She doesn't just help women make financial plans, she helps them understand who they need to become in order to hold the life and the wealth they want. JD, welcome back, my friend. It's so good to have you here.
Oh, it's so nice to be here with you. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Oh my gosh, I'm psyched. All right, so let's just start with just where everybody is right now. So many people, in any case, worried, overwhelmed, maybe even feeling checked out when it comes to money. What are you seeing at this moment? What do you want women to know?
There's so much that I want them to know, but let's start with what I'm seeing because I think it's very simple. So when I boil it down, everyone's attention is on external circumstances. There's a lot of static,
Hmm.
there's a lot of noise, and people are trying to anticipate what's going to happen next. Nobody has a crystal ball. And that is an easy recipe for overwhelm and feelings of instability and fear and pulling you out of yourself, disconnecting you from you. So that's
Hmm.
what I'm seeing.
Mm. Yeah, you've often said that our relationship with money is more about nervous system regulation than budgeting, right? So like that external internal thing is kind of what I'm feeling like you mean by that, or that's what it's making me think anyway. It's not a message most of us grew up with. So how do you help women get started understanding that?
Yeah. So it really is. As we explore our relationship with money, it's a metaphor for our relationship with everything, everyone, every part of our life, right? It's just a fun little rabbit hole to kind of hold our attention in. So we walk through life most of the time, most of us, looking at our external circumstances and reacting to what is happening. We live in our heads because we're encouraged by our society to live in our heads. And we don't notice what's happening in our bodies a lot. And so the very first thing we need to do in our relationship with money is find a way to even talk about it from a place of feeling like it's safe to talk about it because that's the big sticking point for so many women in particular. Safety. Talking to hundreds and hundreds of women over the years, again and again and again, there is not a single woman that I've talked to that hasn't said safety is the number one thing that's driving her with money. And so we really
Mm.
need to look at what is it that is making us feel unsafe? What does safety feel like in the body? Like, have we ever felt it before even? Like, how can we track the breadcrumbs back to that? So it really is kind of a slowing down and an invitation to like, let's set the money piece aside and really get in touch with what is our internal experience, because so many of us don't even know what that is.
Yeah, I remember when I first learned this about you, and I think it was when we interviewed you last time about the idea of how you come at this from an internal perspective first. Like I've never known anyone to do that. And it makes so much sense because it's like any limiting beliefs. If you can't get to the root of the issue, you fix the external part, the root's still there. It's going to come up and bite you in the butt again.
Mhm.
Exactly. And that is why traditional money advice fails women again and again,
Mm,
because so much emphasis is placed on strategy, but you can't implement the strategy if you don't feel safe, right? Like we
yeah.
don't receive money, we don't receive with our brains and our strategic logical selves. We receive with our bodies.
Mm,
And there is so much that's fraught in that receiving process, whether it's with money or anything else. So really untangling the threads there and creating an ecosystem internally that feels really solid. Like I think about it when you step into a relationship with a partner, right? Like you're dating somebody. It's that old adage that like two broken people can't like make a whole person, right? So you can't
We could
step
just have a little
into
fun.
exactly. You can't step into a relationship with money in a healthy way without addressing what's happening inside of you that feels misaligned. I don't think
mm,
anybody is broken when it comes to money. We've just been taught that there are that like what's is for us, what's not for us. There's a lot of messaging about what's possible. And at the end of the day, what I've really come to understand at this stage in my life is that prosperity and peace are our birthrights. Like they are
mm.
baked in. It's who we are. And everything else that we worry about, that we focus on, that knocks us off track, it's just old programming. Half of it, most of it, 99% of it, not even ours. Probably
Yeah.
100% of it, not even ours.
Mm. So interesting. Okay, so you just mentioned there's like so much out there, and there is this, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's advice, but there's this ethos of like mindset and manifestation, and I'm a big believer in the dynamic laws of prosperity. So there's part of me that feels that um, this idea of think positively and abundance will come, but you sort of call out the limits of that thinking. So what's missing when we focus only on mindset and positive thinking?
We're trying to compartmentalize the process, I think,
Mm,
when we look at
Mm.
mindset and positive thinking. The manifestation, the direction that manifestation discourse has gone in over the past few years is just, it drives me nuts. I get hives just even hearing the word manifestation. I don't
I saw
know.
you kind of like flinch when I
It
said
just,
it.
yeah, it's not friendly language for me, because of the grasping nature behind it. I think when I talk to people about manifesting, like they want to get something outside of them so that they can feel better inside of them.
Mm,
And really, the work is about feeling okay and then going out and getting to experience whatever it is you want to create and experience, right? Like okay doesn't come from outside of us. Okay comes from inside of us. So the piece that's missing, or pieces, um, action is a big piece.
yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
can I give you a framework that's really
Yeah.
ancient and kind of we can pull that apart for a second?
Yes,
Because that this is
please.
Yeah,
probably a
please.
helpful example. So the Upanishads are an ancient Hindu scripture. They're in Sanskrit. They've been around for a bajillion years. I'm not Hindu. I don't have all the backstory on it. But there's always been this quote from the Upanishads that I love, and it says that you are what your deep driving desire is. As is your
Mm.
desire, so is your will. As is your will, so is your deed. As is your deed, so is your destiny. So there's a progression baked in there. The very
Mm.
first line of that, you are what your deep driving desire is. Boom, that's it. Like there is no separation between what you are and what you want to be creating an experience and inviting in. Like it's that whole concept of non-duality, but put in that sweet little Sanskrit phrase. But there's a
Beautiful.
progression of activity that happens, right? Like, because we're human beings walking around on the planet, we can't just like sit on our little meditation cushions and think about what we want to be experiencing. We need to be engaging with the world. And there's a way that we come to that grounded in our understanding of our our beingness, like our power, our generative creativity, our innate okayness, and ultimate prosperity. And that understanding and that frequency, if you will, that we're kind of embodying is the thing that helps us have those experiences with money or with love or with whatever that we want to be having. Does
Mm,
that
Well, it
help?
goes back to being what you just said, which is prosperity is our birthright.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So I love that because you're describing the natural state that attracts those things to us. So for those who missed your last one, and I really recommend you go back and I wish I remembered the exact place it was in our first season, but go back and listen to our first call with JD. I want to revisit your wisdom around receiving, because I think, like you said, if it's our birthright and if your desire is who you are, we still block it. And or that's a lot of blocking happens for people. So you've talked about receiving not as something that comes from outside of us. It's not external to us. It's something that really starts internally, receiving more resourced version of ourselves. It's a really radical reframe that I've always learned from you. You said to me early on when we were coaching people who had these lofty ideas of money they wanted to make, and you'd be like, they can, it's really what they work on inside. So can you walk us through that again? Even though I know you did that last time, I would love for anyone listening for the first time to hear it.
Okay, so I need a little bit of help from you because my mind got tangled up in that question somehow.
Yes,
So what am I walking you
just
through
the
specifically?
radical reframe of receiving is not something that, like, when we talk about receiving,
Okay, so
it's
it's the
not
external
about
versus
like,
internal.
it's not about just grabbing something that's coming to you. It's about making room for it, is
Yeah,
how I
so
understand it. Yeah.
yes. Okay, beautiful. Thank you for helping with me with that. Menopause brain, right here and right now. So it's a question of external versus internal. That's the way I look at it, and experience it and teach it. So I think whenever I enter into conversation with people, and even myself, like trust me, I'm an expert on helping others with it, but I'm still working on it myself. I'm still in the growing phase. Um, there's a way in which we can look at an experience that we aren't currently having. Like say you want to be making your first $100,000 as an entrepreneur. Um, and you're not there yet. There's this idea that, okay, I need to go through all these strategies to implement those to then get the money from out there that isn't anywhere near me yet to come to me, right? That idea of magnetizing money or drawing it in or attracting it and all that manifestation languaging. So that's a lovely idea. And maybe that works for some people. I've talked to more people than not that have run into issues with that. And it's because they see that money as something that exists outside of them, and they can't build the bridge between who they are right now as the person who doesn't have that $100,000 and the person who is having that $100,000. And when we go, when we lift the hood and we start poking around and understanding, like, what is it in your body, that is like, what is your body telling you about who you are as $100,000 person? And safety again and again and again comes up, right? Like, if I get all that money, I could lose it. Or if I get all that money, then I'm going to have to be responsible in some way that I don't have to be responsible now, right? It's a safety thing. So we have to kind of get under there and understand what does your nervous system need? Like, what do we need to sort of expand and open up to and relax inside of you so that your capacity to hold that and step into the version of you that already is that $100,000 generating entrepreneur. Like, that person's already in you. Again, you are what your deep driving desire is. Like, it's already there. You wouldn't have that desire, like that capability is already baked in, but it's really receiving that version of yourself that is grounded in that knows, oh my God, $100,000, that's easy, I can 10x that. Like, as walking around as human beings, we get to have this lovely experience of the time that it takes, right? Like working through challenges, working through limitations. It's just this fun little field that we get to play in. But what happens for us is we get so tangled up in looking at something as a problem, as a challenge, as an obstacle, or I'm blocked, or something's wrong with me, instead
Or
of,
there's injustice in it, or like
yeah,
unfairness. Yeah.
exactly. And just looking at, oh, well, how can I play with this? Like, how can I be curious about what's happening here, and what needs to be just like reoriented so that I can more comfortably receive what I'm trying to create.
Mm.
Does that
Mm.
make sense for you guys, or
Yeah.
questions about that one?
It's so grounding.
Well, the one question I'm curious, what popped in my head was, has there ever been a person that you've talked to who says they want that $100,000 or that first six figures, and then because if your desire, you're saying if that's your desire, it's already baked in. But then what if that's not really their desire, but that's what the world, I think of all three of us came from
That
a
is such
coaching
a great
world,
question.
right? And we were
Yeah.
all told the six-figure coach, the six-figure coach. And I remember
Laptop lifestyle.
right. And
Yeah,
I
right.
remember so clearly being like, I don't actually aspire to that. Like it'd be nice, but
Exactly.
I don't aspire to
Exactly.
that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
then
And
what
so,
happens?
yeah, so that's the key. This is why we start out with like who you are and what you really want, because ultimately, like you said, it's not necessarily the money, it's what they think the money is going to do for them. It's something that the
Right.
money is going to change for them. And, you know, again, so many women in particular equate money with safety, but there are people with millions of dollars who don't feel safe at all in the world. Like
Right.
the money is
Yeah,
just like a representation. So
Yep.
absolutely.
it's really about teaching ourselves what we're paying attention to, right? Are we
Mm.
paying attention to our own internal wisdom? Are we
Mm.
paying attention to our value system? Are we paying attention to what feels juicy and delightful for us in the next moment, that like that's feeling like it's magnetizing us forward, not that we're trying to magnetize something to us? Like that's a whole different give and take.
Yeah.
So then does something, okay, so again, I'm just thinking, if I'm thinking of myself, right? Because I just said, like, when I was hearing that, sort of like your cringe on the manifesting, I always be like, oh God, that's not my intention. I know I have to be making money as a coach to continue to coach because this is how I make a living. But for me, it's always been about impact, right? So
Mhm.
once the person realizes what their true desire is, and I know I have impact, then does the money start to roll in, but it's almost just like the cherry on top?
That's a great question.
Or
I
do
think
they
it
then have to decide, okay, I've got the impact, so now I want the money. Now my desire is the money.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's what do you want the money for? So
Ah,
money is a proxy for our
yeah.
attention, for our energy, excuse me. And so I love that you're clear on the impact, because then when you think that, okay, your baseline is I want to make an impact, what will having X amount of money do for me? Or what kind of impact do I want to make? And what amount of money will help me to achieve that? That's where you're aligning your money generation activities with your values and with what you really, really desire. And that's when things get fired up, because you're not having to, you know, force yourself to show up in your business in ways that don't feel good just to make X amount of dollars. You are naturally driven by the impact that you want to make, and you show up joyously, and work doesn't feel like work. It's that flow state that people talk about all the time,
Yeah.
right? So that's where we're going.
Mm.
Yeah.
I like that. So I imagine people listening are nodding and thinking, this all sounds so good, and but it's unfamiliar, right? So where do you suggest people start when they want to feel safer, more connected and clear?
It really, there's a lot of different places you can start. Um, and I think just being curious about what it is you're experiencing now, holding that up against what you want to be experiencing, and noticing, like, just in your body, if you just take a pause and you just like think the word money in your head, or you
Mm.
say the money word out loud, what happens in your body? because usually your body has some sort of little breadcrumb response for you. For some people, it's really obvious, right? Like if you've experienced financial trauma or you're really money avoidant to start with, somebody says money, like the walls go up, your belly starts doing flip flops, your chest gets tight. Like there's a whole, litany of symptoms that arise in the body when you hear the word money. But for other people, it might be more subtle. There might be like a little flutter of excitement or a little bit of a nervousness, or like just getting curious about how do you respond, and then wanting to understand more about your own response, like
Mm.
starting to dialogue with the body, right? Because we are not our bodies. We experience the world through our bodies, right? They're just we are these giant radio antennas constantly getting information coming at us and then sending out information into the world. So I think it's important to kind of check in and figure out what station are we dialed to, what's happening here in this giant system of ours, and getting the body's input. Once we have
Also,
that partnership, we're in much better shape to address the money thing.
right. I was just thinking when you said that, like, also whose station is it? Because it might not be mine. Because I think we've all three
Exactly.
experienced coaching people who, like, maybe it isn't financial trauma and maybe it's not excitement, but there's some ick. And then you don't have to go too deep to find out the ick is, well, my parents always thought people with a lot of money didn't have integrity, or they, it's
Exactly.
like there's this
Exactly.
ick to it that feels like and as we've said so many times, like your energy with money, if you don't like, if you're repelling it, it's gonna have a harder time coming to you.
If you don't want to be in relationship with it, it's gonna like not come to you.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like, I feel your vibe, I'm staying back.
Yeah. Oh, I so completely believe that. Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, so there's some like sort of body somatic sort of feelings around this, but you do actually work with the actual strategy as well.
100%. Yes.
So tell me what a holistic approach to managing money looks like when you work with your clients.
Oh, so fun. I love it. All right, so strategy. Woohoo. So ultimately, what I teach my clients, because well, most everybody has a no hold the brakes on response to budgeting. People
Mhm.
either don't budget because they're grossed out by it, or they budget but they're frustrated with it, and then they have all the shame and guilt about not being able to do it right, or anger at the budget for being wrong. And so we really kind of reintroduce the concept of the budget to begin with, right? So in our society, traditional finance says, here's a budget. It's just like a diet, except it's for your money. So it feels gross, right? It's restriction, it's sacrifice, it's all the things that you can't do and can't have. And it's not built to last, and it's not built to sustain you. And it's no wonder we don't like it. What I like to do instead is we do all that stuff that you just talked about, Lisa, about like getting underneath what it is you really want and how that money helps you with that. So we get clear on that. We get really clear on what your numbers are, because just having that clarity automatically calms the nervous system. When you know what your income is, what your expenses are, what's in the bank, what your goals are, all of a sudden you have a map. And that is very calming to pretty much every nervous system I've ever run across. And then once we have that, we hold that up against your value system, so that as you start deciding how you want to set up your cash flow, it's all permission to spend. That's what the budget is, an
Mm.
actual permission to spend. It's not about you can't spend anything.
Mm.
It's, ooh, where do I get to spend my money? What's most important to me? What feels nourishing and supportive in my life? And what's going to fund future experiences and things that I want to be creating for future me, right? Down the line. So that's how we come at it. And I use a zero-based approach for budgeting. I call my my budgeting system a Zen cash flow plan, because it's zero based, it expresses your values, and it's new every month. So it's not a set it and forget it kind of thing. You have to be interacting with your money on a regular basis, just as like you would with your spouse, theoretically.
Yeah, I was like, Kari and I both like sat there like, wait, what?
Right? I know.
No,
Uh-huh.
I want to reiterate what you just said though, because my husband gets paid. I mean, I get paid once a month, right? Because I bill all my clients at the beginning of the month. My husband gets paid weekly, so I pay bills weekly. And honestly, I mean, it's so fascinating because even though I've been doing this for years, as I sit down to do it, I'm like, ugh. But then the minute it's done, I feel so much lighter. And I feel grateful because all of a sudden, and I think that's the thing when you're money avoidant, and I know people that are, it hangs over you. The non-knowledge hangs over you like a dark cloud. The minute I sit down and I realize not only did I just pay all the bills for the week, but I have money to put into savings, it's like every week it's like, oh, like angels just fly out, And so I think it, you
Mm.
have to experience it. You and I are going to say this, and people that are money avoidant are still going to be like, really? But once you experience it a couple of times, you really do realize that there is such freedom in being clear and really knowing what your budget and your numbers are.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
I've been on all sides of that. um, in your infinite wisdom in conversations about this, you have said that traditional advice, around budgeting fails women. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Sure. So I think that traditional budgeting advice is kind of a one size fits all approach from what I've seen. And it really is just looking at the numbers. All right. So it's number one, we're just talking strategy. And that right there is going to fail you because, as we've discussed, strategy is not the way to have a healthy relationship with money. It's an important component, but it's not the only one. And you have to feel safe to implement the strategy. So that's one way it fails us. The other way, the one size fits all approach, is that everyone's different. Everyone's priorities in life, their stage of life are different. I mean, personal finance is called personal finance because it is personal, very personal. And so I think there are lots of great different approaches to budgeting, and there is no one right way. So we really need to come at it from a bespoke sort of approach where, yeah, I know I have my system for helping people set up their budgets, but your budget is going to look very different from Carrie's budget. It's going to look very different from my budget, from the person next door. And it's all based on what's most important to us. And so, traditional finance, they talk about what's important to you, but only in terms of can you afford retirement,
Yeah.
right? Like it's just a very it
Masculine.
feels really stale to me. I don't know. It just feels very
Right.
flat. And I mean, so many women I talk to are turned off by just the financial industrial complex anyway, that it won't even go see a financial advisor or a financial planner because of that feeling.
Well, and
Well,
also sorry, Carrie. Also, there's
no.
this moment of like, so many of us in Gen X right now, we don't know if we're ever going to retire. So the idea that to pay attention to a financial advisor for retirement purposes, it's for me anyways, that's like, well, we're never going to. So why am I even doing that? And yet, if you talk to them, you might in fact retire.
Very
Right.
true. Very true. Yeah, I have one client that I was talking to a couple of months ago, and she and her husband worked with me just prior to COVID, actually,
Hmm.
which was perfect timing because things went sideways for them. But they already had their plan in place, so they were good. But they thought they had a much further out time horizon for retirement than their financial planner actually came back and said they could retire sooner
Hmm.
than they thought, just based on some of the changes they've been making, some great things that happened for him and his work. And yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Everything is constantly in flux with money. It's always ebbing, it's always flowing, it's always shifting and changing. And as with any relationship, we need to show up for that and be present for it, engage with it. Because the more informed we are about it, the easier it is to make adjustments when they need to be made early on so that changes don't have to feel so radical for us, right? We can make a small adjustment here because we already know, and then it doesn't feel like a tsunami hitting us because we've had our head buried in the sand and all of a sudden, boom, here comes the wave.
Yeah. I think it just goes back to that feeling of safety because a lot of the guilt and shame and burnout, especially for women who take a pause from work. I mean, Lisa and I have talked
Mm.
about that openly here about
Oh
how
yeah.
the guilt we have felt when we aren't contributing as much during the times we were raising our kids, right? And it's like, no, that was just unpaid labor and made their income possible, right? So, but that has happened for a lot of, in fact, we came across this a lot when we did a episode on tradwives and how the pandemic, kind of created a situation where someone had to take a pause from work to take care of the kids. And oftentimes it was women. And so some people decided to embrace it and just make a whole thing out of it. But anyway, that all comes back down to safety. Like you're saying, the safety of, if I make those choices, what's my long-term safety net? Do I have one? Or is it totally dependent on this relationship? Or like, am I safe to even make that choice?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, everything comes down to, it always boils back down to safety. And our safety, even though we think money makes us safe, our safety comes from inside of us. It comes from our trust in ourselves. It comes from our trust in our relationships, to the world, to the people around us, to whatever you think is like that which is greater, or if there's some languaging for that for you that feels appropriate. Safety exists without money. Like, there were days when money didn't even exist. Let's think about that.
Yeah.
Like, so let's go back in time. There was a time before money as we know it did not exist, and people still had to grapple with the concept of safety. So if you say that money is the thing that's going to make you safe, that right there is going to blow that up for you.
Yeah, that's such a good point.
But it's
money can
empowering.
bring more choices. It can bring more choices, but it
Absolutely,
doesn't
absolutely.
necessarily create safety. Yeah, I agree.
No, nothing creates safety except us.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
It's
true.
our job.
Wow, such a good point. Okay, so what are you excited about right now? Because again, one of the reasons we brought you on is everybody's freaking out about it. So what are you excited about right now?
In terms of what's happening out in the world,
What
of
you're
money.
doing, what you're like creating, what can you impart on us?
So I've been diving into a little bit of Land of the Woo lately, because
Yay!
that's just part of my background.
But you know what I love about this trio is all three of us, we dabble in both. Like we're very grounded in like the practical. But this is what I love about you, JD, is you're kind of like to some things, and then you're like really grounded. So whenever you embrace the woo and bring it to us, it's just so relatable. So I'm excited.
Totally.
Aw, thank you. That's so sweet. So yeah, so the woo that I've been embracing lately, easy for me to say, is working with the moon and the moon cycles and money. So this month is the first month I will be offering a new moon money circle. So I'm excited about that. I have a feeling by the time this launches, that first one will have already passed by the time your podcast lands.
Yeah, that might be right.
Yeah, so this one's for June, but assuming things go well, there'll probably be one for July, so you can stay tuned for that. And it's just been really fun to play with working with the moon cycles and holding those up against activities that I work with in money cycles, right? Because just like the moon, money does that, expand, contract, it's constantly moving and shifting, and we are too, right? And so particularly as women with uteruses, we have a special, if you have one, there's already a built-in connection with the moon. And even if you don't, just having the moon and being able, we were all creatures of nature, right? The moon is part of nature. We're part of nature. Just being able to connect with nature in that way and move through a cyclical rhythm and then apply it as an overlay to this other thing that has its own cycles that we work with all the time in the form of money, and moving those together has been really juicy to play with.
Well, it makes me think, I mean, we had Alex Coble-Frakes on at the beginning of the year, and she was talking about the cycles.
Love that episode.
Yeah, cycles and building a business. So this, talk about an overlay, this feels very much an overlay to that.
It is. I think it's very similar. I heard that episode and I was like, oh, there's definitely some synergy happening there.
Yeah.
And I've definitely used the moon in conjunction with helping people building their businesses, like with past clients when I was business coaching. We talked a little bit about like coordinating your marketing activities based on the moon cycle and you and your energy levels. And it's the similar idea with money. So there's certain activities, like depending upon, is the moon new? Is it full? Is it waxing or waning? I actually created a little free handbook for folks that it's only like 8 or 9 pages, but it actually walks you phase by phase. I use 8 phases because we don't want to overload. And also 8 is a powerful transformative number.
Yeah.
But we walk through 8 phases of the moon along with little activities that you can use, little rituals, little journal prompts that really help you move through that full rhythm with the moon, with yourself, with money. And it's a nice way to get in the habit of doing a money date, which
Yeah.
I help all my clients have to start, incorporating money dates because that's how we have the opportunity to start interacting regularly with money and helping build that sense of trust and connection. And so it's really nice to be able to have a structure of a moon cycle to guide you through just having your money dates. Like, even if you don't feel like it, you're like, what am I going to do? I don't even know. Oh, here we are in the waxing gibbous. This is what we're going to focus on. So,
How do people get that from you?
so everything, any way that you want to interact with me, you can find me on Instagram. There's a link in my bio there. And then when you go to that little Linktree link, you'll find the free resource, the moon, it's called Money by Moonlight. That's the handbook.
Oh,
You'll find a
Love it.
link to sign up for the next Money Moon Circle. As those are being held. Those aren't always held on the new moon. Sometimes they'll be the full moon. Sometimes they'll be the new moon. It kind of
oh,
depends
cool.
upon what's happening there.
We're just coming off a full moon right now, right?
We are.
Yeah.
That was a rocker, huh?
Yeah, the
It
strawberry
was.
moon.
It was.
Okay, well, we always put it in the show notes, but we'll also be tagging you on all our social media. So in your bio is where they can find these
Yes,
resources and
ma'am.
all the different ways that they can connect with you for these different moon circles and so forth as well.
Yes, my
And
website link
Yeah.
is that everything is there.
awesome. And Carrie and I both have been in experiences with that you have led, and they are incredibly powerful.
Absolutely. Because there's just something so powerful about the way you, again, that duality of you have softness and strategy, right? And I think that's so beautiful just hearing you bring up Lisa, Alex, and thinking about just how for people to understand waxing and waning and how it applies everywhere, right?
Yeah.
To your energy, your social energy, your romantic energy, your financial life, your, like your work life, all of that. If you can really start to learn that, what a beautiful way to learn to trust yourself and do everything from the internal. And you do that so beautifully.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then there is the reminder, right, that for those of us who are in menopause and don't have the cycles, right, the moon is still there. I remember that was one of the things when we met with Alex, and she was like, it doesn't matter if you're not having menstruating anymore. You can still work with the moon. So the moon will always be there.
Honestly, Lisa, I feel more connected to the moon now that I'm in
Me
menopause than
too.
I
Me
Me
ever
too.
too.
did when I was
Me too.
menstruating.
Me
Yep.
too.
It's really
It's one
amazing.
of those things I wish I could go back and like, experience if
Me
I could.
too.
You can see my
I
moon
wish I had
tattoo as
that
we talk.
awareness when I was younger, but
Totally.
Me
I've
too.
always loved the moon, but you're right. The full understanding and working with it.
mhm.
Yeah. So how
Yeah, it's
great
a
for
really
people who are
magical process.
listening to us that are younger, do it now.
Do it now. Yeah, that would
Yeah.
be part of my advice to my younger self. Go do that now.
Yeah. Yeah. All the time. Um, do you have anything else, Carrie, you wanted to mention before we?
No, I mean, other than I just really invite like I love the abundant place that you're in right now. I've always enjoyed watching your creative juices just flow so generously. So if you're listening and any of this intrigues you, this is just such a great time to get to know JD because you're offering so many good freebies right now. So I think it's excellent way to for people to dabble in this. If they've just always struggled with money, there's such a great opportunity to shift that story for yourself.
Yeah, I think it's really important to bring some play and some fun into the parts of our life that feel stressful and challenging to begin with. There's
Mm,
play just makes it so much easier. There is one takeaway that I want to address that I
mm,
don't know that I did at the very beginning when we were talking about what's going on now in
Yeah.
the world and people's fear and anxiety and layoffs and whatever. I just really want your listeners to understand that nothing has changed. Like,
Mm,
what we're seeing today is the same stuff we've always seen in a different form. And when it comes to your money, the basics always apply. there's not some brand new money strategy that you don't know about that is going to make this an easier ride for you or for any of us as we're watching events unfold in the world and in our local communities. And I think that's actually empowering to know
Yeah.
that, oh, if I can just get my arms around the basics, I'm in good shape, right?
Mm.
Like that client that I mentioned earlier who came to me prior to COVID. Um, we made some tweaks to her budget. We made some changes to like how she was working with her money, and it was basic stuff. And because she had that clarity and because she got into a structure and a rhythm of being with her money regularly in a way that was going to be fueling what she valued and prioritized most, when COVID hit, her husband had like a 20% pay cut. They had all kinds of things going on. Of course, it was the middle of COVID. We didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
And they came out of it just fine.
Mm.
And they had like almost no stress money wise because they had their basics in place. So you don't have to, even if you're starting from square zero or square one, you don't have like 20 hoops to jump through. You just need to start where you are and get some fundamentals in place, and you'll be just fine.
Mm.
So that's a great lead into this, which is this is the beginning of the second half of 2025. So as we think about this, and people are listening and being like, this sounds great, but so what is one gentle step someone could take this week to feel empowered for perhaps the rest of this year?
One gentle step, if you're open to it, is just having a money date,
Yeah, I love money
right?
dates.
Just have a money date. And a money date could look a lot of different ways, but like make it a date, make it like fancy and special for yourself, right? Like take yourself out to your favorite coffee shop or take yourself out to a restaurant or do like light a candle or do something lovely for yourself when you sit down to interact with your money. And it might just be, hey, I just need to check my credit card statement and see if I have subscriptions on here that I don't remember, or like whatever it is. And if you're one of those people for whom a money date just feels like, oh God, I can't even go there, your first gentle step is to just be in your body and use your breath and breathe
Mm,
and just let your breath settle into all of the corners of your body and work on relaxing your nervous system. There's all
mm.
kinds of resources out there for somatic work. So reach out for help. You don't have to do it on your own. That's the beautiful thing. We have community, coaches and
Yeah,
somatic practitioners, healers abound. So yeah,
and you most likely people think, gosh, I'm the only one that feels this way about money. And we're here to tell you that is not true.
I literally have only ever met one person, and I did meet one person, and I still don't know that I believe her, who said that like she doesn't have any issues with money. Like there's like no
Wow.
money baggage there. And
Interesting. I never believe
she's
that
the
anymore
person that I
after all the
really wanted to
coaching we've
work with. But she's in the
That's
financial
wild.
industry, so I don't think I'll be able to work with her.
Oh, wow. Um, we as we get to this next part, I hadn't told Lisa yet that I was like, remember, bring a song that like what's your latest favorite song? And so JD, when we first met, like we found out this very similar to Lisa, we have a lot of the same musical tastes, and it harkens often back to the 80s and stuff. So did you come up with a song that you wanted to
I was
share?
prepared. I
Okay.
came in with a musical reference. So I don't know that there's a song, but I have been listening to a lot of Ava Cassidy lately
Mm,
because she really calms my nervous system. She's just got that
mm.
beautiful, like liquid gold voice. And two of my favorites that I'm kind of playing again and again are Imagine, John Lennon,
Mm.
and True Colors. She does a beautiful cover of True
Oh,
Colors by Cyndi Lauper.
oh, that's
So
Mm.
cool.
anything that you can listen to from by Ava Cassidy, she's just, I mean, I I think the world was just robbed when she died. She died way too young. She was like
Mm.
33 years old when we lost
Oh,
her. It was
wow.
crazy.
Somebody
Uh,
die at 33. Mm.
Pardon me?
A lot of famous people have died at 33. Isn't that correct? Or is it 27?
27.
27 and
27.
33. 33, there's a few then.
Magic
Yeah.
numbers. But if
Mm.
you get a chance to watch her live at Blues Alley on YouTube, watching her sing in a live experience, or it's as close to live as we can get, is just
Mm.
spine tingling.
And I love that you said that it's the thing that calms your nervous system. Because again, circles right back around to the beginning, is that we feel money in our nervous system. This isn't just coins and paper, right? It's so much bigger than that. And so as you're having a money date, I often talk about this with my clients as well, like get a glass of wine, like make it a date, like you would think of having a date. And
Mhm.
and enjoy it, right? Because so often we think, oh, paying bills, blah blah blah, but enjoy it.
You know, my whole idea around paying bills, like my whole experience of it changed when I understood it as not paying bills. I'm just expressing appreciation.
Ah,
I'm
Ooh.
expressing appreciation for a
do you
service.
say thank you, or do if you I very few people write checks, but when I do, I write thank you in the notes
I write
section.
thank you on my check section all the time. Yeah.
Yep.
And that I still do occasionally write checks. And when I
Yeah.
sit down to pay bills, I actually like pull up that feeling of like when I go through things, I'm like, oh, I'm so happy that I can pay my electric bill, right? I'm
Yep.
so excited to be able to buy grocery. Like, what a gift that I can
Yep.
nourish and sustain myself and my household. Thank you. Well, how
It
amazing. We take it for
it's
granted, but it's amazing.
and
It's
it's
amazing.
such a mind shift to do that. I mean, you will feel the instant relaxation when it's coming. And again, this isn't toxic positivity. This is just simply fact. You have the money to pay the bill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really
And
is such
when
a
you think
such an expression of not just generosity, but gratitude. I love it.
Hmm.
Yeah. And when you think about literally paying a bill, it's an exchange, right?
Yeah.
Somebody gave you a service or somebody did something for you, provided you with something that is nourishing your life in some way. Otherwise, you wouldn't have decided you were going to pay for it.
Right.
And so it is a literal expression of appreciation, just that exchange of energy.
I have a coach friend in my life who, when she'll hear about something like an expense that came up in someone's life, she'll say, "Oh, so glad you can afford that."
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Or like,
Yeah.
"I'm so glad you guys have good insurance for that." Like she says it that way every single time instead of like, "Oh, what a bummer," like leaving the conversation that way. Like she really, and it's always such a great reframe for the person she's saying
I
it
love
to.
that she does that.
Yeah.
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 And it is. I mean, I think our default is to go to unexpected expenses popping up as, oh no, this is a bad thing. No, this is a predictable thing. The unpredictable is predictable. And
And that's
so,
actually why, like, that's one of the reasons you have money dates, is so these unpredictable things can be met with the resources.
yeah, and you can do
Yeah.
your best to plan for those things. You don't know what they're going to be, but if you know that they're going to be coming at some point, you can sort of create cushion for yourself as you think you need to. Everybody's cushion looks different, but let's just accept that we live in a world where we don't have a crystal ball and unexpected things happen all the time.
And for
And what we
homeowners, those
can
things happen in
control,
threes.
yeah, what we can control is where we choose to funnel our money.
Mm. Yeah.
And
And how we
appreciate.
feel about it.
Yeah,
Mm.
Oh,
absolutely.
I'm so glad you said yes to coming on so quickly.
Thank
'Cause
I'm
you.
so glad you all invited me. It's so much fun to chat with you. You know, I
I
could talk
mean,
about
your
money with you all
wisdom
day.
and I mean, Carrie said it already, but it is what's so lovely is there's this wisdom which feels very otherworldly, and then there's this clarity which feels really grounding. And you just always give us so much to think about and to try without making it overwhelming. We're already coming from a place of overwhelm, and this is a way to do that sort of classic coach thing where you step back and just take a breath. So, always so grateful to have you on.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so grateful to be here.
And once again, we're going to link to JD's work and the embodied wealth matrix in the show notes. So thank you so much for listening and being with us today. And I love you, friend. Thank you for your time.
Right back at you. Appreciate you all. Take care.
Bye, everyone.